there, glad you could join us for that time again when we talk business, take a deeper look into policies and track investment opportunities. Now the program is Business24, reaching you from the stables of NTA News 24. I'm Chimobi Walter Naji. Welcome. This edition promises to be enlightening and profiting too. For us in Nigeria and as Nigerians, the month of October is special. Now this is because it was on the 1st of October 1960 that Nigeria got her independence from the colonial masters. And so, on our lineup for this week, we take a historical perspective of Nigeria's economic journey against the backdrop of renewed and invigorating efforts by this administration to diversify the country's revenue base. Our correspondent will take us on that lane. Now, we also have our regulars moving Nigeria beyond oil. You get to meet our young entrepreneur and, of course, the very helpful export tips and a review of the market activities. All these are lined up for your profiting, but only after this timeout. Welcome back. Now, if you just tuned in, the program is Business24. Let's go straight to the business of the day. Now, prior to the discovery of oil, Nigeria's economy was vibrant with agriculture as the major earner of foreign exchange. This scenario, however, changed with the discovery of oil in 1958. And since then, it remained a major revenue earner, which defined the nation's economic growth. All that is, however, changing with the diversification drive of current administration led by President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, in this report, Joy Uzo chronicles Nigeria's economy against the backdrop of sustainable economic growth.
Before the discovery of oil in 1956, Nigeria was famous for her agrarian economy, through which cash crops like palm produce, oil and kernel, cocoa, rubber, timber, granules, among others, were exported, thus making Nigeria a major exporter in that respect. In experts' opinion, agriculture is the bedrock of every economic development. This, they say, is so because the sector offers vast opportunities and employs over 70% of the Nigerian labor force, as well as providing raw materials for local industries. The exportation of agricultural products helped Nigeria in taking gigantic strides towards our economic growth, thereby culminating in development of infrastructure.
We have cocoa being produced and exported. We have granule oil also. We have palm oil. We have rubber. Those were the critical export crops in Nigeria, and the Nigerian economy was doing quite fine. We have a lot of infrastructures that were not decaying, they were doing well. So that was the Nigerian economy at the time of independence. After the independence here, unfortunately, Nigeria witnessed some political crisis, starting with tax and wood crisis, and then which equally led to the Civil War of 1966 to 1970. And the Civil War, by the time we were finishing the war, Nigeria was opportune to enter into another serious economic fortune with the advent of a large quantity of oil deposits.
Going down memory lane upon the discovery of crude oil and its subsequent exportation, there was a boom on the economy of Nigeria, as it accounted for over 80% of the country's foreign exchange earnings. An economic expert who spoke to Business24 said the discovery to some extent assisted the country's economic prosperity, but ironically later became more like a bane to Nigeria's economic growth, because a huge money earned from petroleum resulted in successive administrations paying less attention to the other sectors.
So when we discovered oil now, all that was discarded. But now, gradually, because we have seen what oil has done to us, we have gotten the money, but because it was easy to just exploit and sell and earn the money, we didn't make best use of it.
While the narrative has taken a new turn since the inception of the present administration, Its diversification drive is gaining more grounds, with industrialists who form a large percentage of beneficiaries of policies and initiatives introduced to achieve a more robust economy attesting to its impact on their operations, especially the ease of doing business initiative. State governments are also replicating the effort of the federal government by providing arable lands for the cultivation of cash crops. This is also as they enjoy zero import duties and VAT for every farming machinery is imported. They say the multiplier effects are enormous as it gainfully engages rural farmers and creates more jobs in the overall value chain as well as save foreign exchange for the country.
So now government has, out of its various deliberate policies, we are getting back to where Nigeria started, encouraging agriculture and agro-allied businesses so that we can now be earning from what we produce in Nigeria, and then we now utilize it and even export and earn foreign exchange. So we are going to go into a reverse, process. Oil will be there, but it doesn't provide as much employment as agro-business will produce or provide.
However, challenges such as power, access to finance, and infrastructure are some factors inhibiting the operations of the small and medium-scale enterprises.
There are three basic things that government can do and the economy will begin to grow. Our legal framework, our justice system, and our data system. The moment you are able to strengthen the laws and make certain that your justice system is flawless, is incorruptible, and you have proper statistics on both your human capital and your natural resources, you will have a lot of inflow of investment coming into your way. That is what government needs to do.
Meanwhile, the federal government's initiative on export, especially agricultural commodities, is yielding results as a total value of 29.146 billion naira worth of agricultural produce were exported out of Nigeria between January and March this year. This represents an appreciable improvement when compared to same period of 2017. For Business24, I am Joy Uzo.
Thank you, Joy, for that insightful report. The renewed commitment to a diversified economy puts agriculture in the forefront. The reason is not far-fetched, as economists have told us that from farming comes a good percentage of raw materials for manufacturing and processing. One of such is the bee. You may be thinking of what befalls a man who finds himself in a bee colony. Your guess is as good as mine. Well, Business24 can tell you reliably that besides honey, which is the most popular derivative from bee, the searchlight is now beamed on other derivatives which results show employment and wealth for those who have braved the bee colony. Kunle Adeya tells us more about it.
Honey for many is believed to be the only end product from the bee, and this has compelled those with such impression to be missing out from the secret gold mine. Recent outlook reveals many are silently making a living with the busy bee, and better still, making their fortune. Well, characteristic of Business24 to sensitize the populace on how to be gainfully engaged, it stormed on these enterprising individuals who have embraced the business with such enthusiasm. Our findings also points out that the investment is worthy of your time. Gideon Dagunro, an agronomist, has carved a niche for himself. He solicits the support of both public and private organizations in his quest to get established.
When you look at honey business, there's a lot of areas you can exploit. Not only keeping your hives in the bush, carpenter, welder, tailor, everybody can be involved in the value chains of the business. And again, people that are marketing the honey. You look at the rate of, even in Ghana, you find out that in Ghana, most of the women there, they're into beekeeping.
Deborah Gabriel's ultimate dream is to export her products to Europe. She talks about her current patronage.
I mean, it's good because of the way Nigeria is, and then we'll be getting people to trust that this is 100% non-adulterated. So, but I mean, it's been great so far. We're just waiting for a NAFDAC and then we can export. It's because it's a new brand. A lot of people still have like their pets, yes. They are not sure if they want to patronize us or not, which is very okay. We'll hope to conquer that soon. And then the NAFDAC was not able to put it in some shops yet that we would want to do, but all of that will come to an end very soon.
For Ebun, Oluwagboye, an agri-economics graduate, she has been able to bring her knowledge to bear in the course of her almost 2-decade stint on the trade.
The beekeeping business in Nigeria is gradually coming up. People are venturing into beekeeping daily, so the awareness of it is growing every day. So more people are coming into the business, but they just want the development of beekeeping in Nigeria, because in America the bees are wiping off, and bees is essential to life because they help in pollination. So when you take bees out of the community, the lifespan of man will reduce. So most of the people, foreigners, we get our equipment from them. So they are coming into the country to ensure that beekeeping is sustained in Africa.
Sunday Ojenima pushes for Nigerians to disregard the general assumption that the business is capital intensive.
We don't need to import materials from China from anywhere. We don't want to be Nigeria, China. We want to be Nigerians. And what you can see here every year is all about Nigeria. You can, with little capital, you can start beef farming. It's like buying shares in those days. You can start beef farming with even 20,000 naira. You can start beef farming. But the good thing about it, if you go into commercial beef farming, put yourself into groups.
Opportunities do abound in Nigeria if only the unemployed, principally the youths, can step into agriculture-related ventures such as the booming bee business. Hunle Adeyeye for Business24.
I told you, the bee is your profit-making friend. Now, let's take a trip to Nasarawa State, north-central Nigeria. The economics of cassava and Nigeria's high production output in sub-Saharan Africa has sustained the age-long traditional practice of processing the commodity for financial benefits while contributing to food security. Victoria Kasuwa Ojito reports that the industry is waxing strong as a significant number of rural women continue to be engaged in cassava business in Nasarawa State.
Emma Hingri, as an entrepreneur, has answered the call by government not only to be employed, but to employ others. He says patronage for cassava derivatives like gari by buyers from far north and outside the country has been on the increase.
We need storage, yes, where we put our goods. And even where we are frying our garima, you see it's very local. Yes, so we need a standard press.
Hungary is not alone because the tempo of processing is high in almost all the centers. Women and children are major participants. Nasarawa State is among the states with the highest production output of the commodity, and with little application of advanced technology in processing, business owners depend on local methods. Also, due to the challenges of lack of storage facilities, farmers and processors of the commodity incur losses. However, even with having to overcome, stakeholders say the prospect of cassava production in the state is still bright. They say intervention of federal and state governments through the Anchor Borrower Scheme and provision of improved varieties of cassava is helping the farmers.
Those programs were to order to cushion the effect of lack of market for cassava, so it was to enable them to also process the cassava that they were harvesting. And these were some of the efforts that government made.
Government should, as a matter of urgency, interfere. Like in Kwara State, there is what we call starch processing company that produces about 100,000 tons of metric tons of starch per annum. I think since Nasarawa State is another is a big cassava producing state, then the government should think in that direction. Establish the starch processing producing company here, that at least farmers will not suffer selling their produce at a giveaway price to people that will come from other states to take them away.
But how are bakery owners implementing the policy which require them to use cassava flour in their deliveries to encourage production?
Now, they are using corn for making flours now. But if eventually they are introducing cassava, I will be using it in as much it's good for consumption.
There is a general consensus by all stakeholders that with the diversification drive of federal government to boost agriculture, cassava production remains a major contributor to the nation's GDP and value addition to food security of the nation. In Lafia, Victoria Castle Ojito.
Every entrepreneur aspires to expand his or her business, and in case your dream is that of exporting to other countries, first, take these tips from our in-house expert, Femi Boyede.
Hello viewers, welcome once again to Export Tips. We are going to be going a little bit different. We're not going into the classroom today because Export Digest, as much as it is educative, would also like to lend a voice to trending issues. And this time around we're talking about the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, and possibly, if we have the time, I don't know whether it is completely abandoned now or still in the making economic partnership agreement with Europe. It's important for us to talk about agreements because at the end of the day, what we are doing is seeking to export, and you do not export to yourself. Export, as we have defined on several occasions on this program, involves the transfer or the movement of goods and services from one country to another. And as long as it is going to be something that takes two to tango, there's the necessity to talk about agreement. The most recent, and which still holds a lot of contention and controversy in Nigeria, is the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, which Nigeria is still in the process of studying or in the process of rejecting, even though a Nigerian has been continentally commended as the chief architect of that process, which has produced a single market on the continent of Africa. So, how do trade agreements affect exports? How are they likely to affect the exports of goods and services from Nigeria? First and foremost, what is a trade agreement? Just like I said, an agreement, a trade agreement, is actually a discussion, a document that contains the terms of trade between two countries. Of course, it could be more than two. Because it is either two or more than two, usually they talk about trade agreements on three levels: the unilateral, the bilateral, and the multilateral. Most of the time you hear these terms, you start wondering, what do they mean? Unilateral trade agreement is simply that a country, especially those seeking to protect their local industry, impose or introduce terms of trade, and in this case there is no consultation with one or two or any other country. It is to say, if you must trade with us, this and this and this and this are our own terms. So in this case, you either take it or leave it. I usually jokingly say it's a matter of you either take it or take it, because if you want to trade with that country, you must take it anyway. That's the unilateral trade agreement. The bilateral trade agreement is between country A and country B. That's why it is by. Two countries may decide, just like a few years ago, Nigeria and Ghana decided to have a bilateral trade agreement that created a trade highway that allowed the goods from both countries to be reciprocally treated with a priority when they came in. That's a bilateral trade agreement. The one that Nigeria has most of is actually multilateral trade agreements, and so that's where we are talking about what we're talking about. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is actually a multilateral trade agreement as it involves several nations. How does this have an effect on Nigeria? Let me quickly say that a lot of those protesting and advising Nigeria not to sign are those in the camp that protect local industry. So Export Digest would like to lend a voice from the point of view of when you produce locally, when you protect your local industry and say no, you are not going to be part of a bigger continental market, then you start asking yourself, am I going to consume everything that I produce? That means that we're trying to, from the export point of view, please pardon me, that means that we're trying to limit our horizon. We're now going to be producer-consumer. And we have said several times on Export Digest that Nigeria actually produces goods, products, commodities that she does not consume and consumes more of those things that she does not produce. So we must be careful. The Continental Free Trade Area is actually supposed to produce or to provide a bigger, much bigger market officially, much bigger market officially for Nigeria's exportable goods and services. First, we must understand that in the first instance, ECOWAS, which we have always seen as our catchment area, is probably Nigeria's oldest, biggest historical market as far as history is concerned.
Up next, we take a review of the capital market.
We don't have to worry so much because if you look at the macroeconomic variables, everything is more or less stable. And the price of oil is going up. You know, that is Nigeria economy, especially in terms of foreign exchange, is controlled by the petroleum, let me put it that way. So Nigeria is more or less a monocultural economy. So most of our foreign inflow is from oil. And since the prices of international prices is going up, I think it's a good thing for Nigeria. It's a long-term market, not short-term. Because some stocks have lost up to 20% within the year. So anybody that has money to put in there now, after the election, whoever wins will be smiling back to the bank. Because the prices are very low. Almost all the stocks are underpriced. You understand? Because if you look at it now, the market has lost about 15% this year alone. And this is a market that gained over 16% within 30 days of the first month in the year, in January. So some people have bought and they are still keeping it. You can imagine that those people have lost nothing less than 15 to 20%. But if you come in now, from the day you bought, you have gained almost 20%.
Wow, our time for this edition is up, and we most sincerely appreciate your being part of the show. Keep the mails coming. We value your feedback. And until we meet you again next week, I remain Chimobi Walter Naji. Do have yourself a wonderful week.